Well, hello and welcome to Your Family Bank podcast. I'm super excited today. We have a wonderful guest. We are going to be talking about the psychology of happiness. And, everything I've done with the podcast, it's kind of been more of on experience or gut feel and that kind of stuff with regards to money and kids. And so now I've got someone who can help back me up with some of the research and the science around these things. And so it's not just all about what I say. So I'm really excited to have Jill Schulman on the show today. She has a master's in applied positive psychology. I like the applied part of that. And she's a former Marine. We were filming the day after Veterans Day. So thank you for your service, Jill, and thanks for being on the show.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Well, start off, give us the, 2 to 4 minute backstory of kind of how you got into the applied positive psychology and, kind of what led you down that road and how we got here.
Yeah. I feel like about every 8 or so years of doing the same thing, I need a new challenge. So let me back up. So I started my career as a United States Marine. I grew up in small town, Minnesota. Parents had jobs that were good jobs that paid the bills. My parents didn't love their work. In fact, they kind of hated their work. And that made a profound impact on me as a young girl, because I'm like, I don't want this. Like, they dread going to work every single Monday morning. And I mean, if a third of our waking life, awake hours is at work and you hate it, that's pretty miserable. And then my dad has always lived in the little town of Prior Lake, Minnesota since I grew up. And I'm like, I just want something different. So the Marine Corps was my ticket out of Minnesota, paying for my college and to pursue a career of purpose. So that's kind of what took me originally in the Marine Corps. And then I decided to, transition to the civilian world. And I worked in corporate America. My joke is my first job was to blow things up. Like literally, I was one of the first female combat engineer officers where we build things and blow things up. And then I started selling drugs, the legal kind, right, in pharma. And I spent 13 years. I moved up pretty quickly and absolutely loved that industry. Learned the business world, and then I launched my own company doing leadership development, because the last thing I did in pharma was doing leadership development. The reason why I started my own company was I had gotten this big promotion to do the leadership development in support of the largest brand that we had at Abbott at the time, Humira. Such a great opportunity, and it required a move to Chicago. But my husband, who we're living in Southern California, he had furniture stores, brick and mortar furniture stores. So it's not like we could just pick up and move. He had opened up these Ashley furniture stores, and I'm like, so they allowed me to fly in. And after doing that for a while, I think I underestimated how hard it would be on the family, on the kids. And I came home early on a Friday once. Again, I'm gone pretty much every week, but I got an earlier flight, and I decided to surprise my baby girl in kindergarten, pick her up from school. And she runs out and sees mommy's here, and she's all excited, and she gets in the car, and I get her in her car seat and all that. And then she's got they come out with their little papers or whatever they did. So she has a picture that she drew, and it was a picture of the family. And I wasn't in the picture.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's one of those things. I'm so glad that happened, because it was a wake-up call. And that was what motivated me to start my own business, and then doing leadership development pretty much for a lot of pharmaceutical companies. So I was doing the same work, but at least I could travel less on my own schedule. And then you ask, why did I study positive psychology? I mean, as someone who helps companies build leadership skills and build the culture that will drive results and also help with the employee experience so that people don't want to leave, right? I mean, that's my whole world. I stumbled upon the science of positive psychology in business. And I didn't even know this was a thing. Someone sent me a TEDx, and he basically talks about how people get happiness wrong. He says, people think that when you accomplish a goal, then you become happy. And he goes, we get the equation backwards. He says, it's when you experience happiness and positive emotions, that's the rocket fuel that helps you achieve the goal. And so he makes a business case for that. And then I saw the TEDx, and then I read his book, and there's a lot of science in there. I'm like, this is interesting. So then I went to the back of the book, and every site that he, or every source that he cited, I went and read that. And then I just became obsessed, and I started reading all the stuff on positive psychology. And then I learned you can actually get a degree in positive psychology. So positive psychology is the scientific study of elevating happiness and well-being, helping people flourish, right? If someone's has a good life, how do they have a great life? And what can we do that we're certain will work because it's been studied? So I went back to school, and it's like 3 years ago, because I'd been doing the leadership development company for like, remember I said about every 8 or 9 years, I kind of get the itch, and I'm like, I need to do something different or challenge myself. So I went back to Penn, the best school in the world, and and I'm not just saying that because I've got pride at Penn, but it's where positive psychology was born. It was the first program ever. I didn't think I'd even get in, but I got into the program, and it was so hard and so fantastic at the same time. And what I ended up doing my deep dive in my research was, what is one of the blockers to people thriving and living their best life? And it's fear. Fear controls people. It prevents people from doing what they really want. And so that kind of became my obsession. I did my research on that subject, and I did my capstone on it, which is why I wrote a book on it. And that's what I really focus on now, the science of bravery.
Yeah, which the book is awesome. Definitely recommend everybody go find the book. And it's what I love about it is it's a story, and a
Mm-hmm.
fictional story that tells all the lessons. So it's not a psychology textbook or anything like
Right.
that. It's very easy read, very easy to understand. So I think that was quite a unique thing for a really good book that teaches people a lot of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. My motivation for writing it as a story is, first of all, I wanted people to actually read the whole book, because how many business books do you get that you start reading and then you kind of put it on the shelf, right? So, but if it's a story, first of all, you're going to remember it. We know that people remember more things in stories, but all the science is in there, and then they're going to get to the end of the story. So that's my little motivation. And it only takes about, 2.5 hours to read. So it's a quick read. So I'm glad that you read it. So thank you. And
Yeah.
you notice, because I know what we're going to be talking a little bit about is, I mean, not only how do adults live their best life to thrive and flourish, but how do you help your kids? And in the story, the main character is a father, and he has some of those same kind of struggles and thinking about, how do I best raise my kids, my son specifically, so that he can thrive in life and not be weak. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Before we jump into that, because I definitely want to cover that, I always like to ask my guests, what is something unique that most people would not know about you?
Oh gosh. Well, everyone knows I'm a Marine. So I have this reputation I'm supposed to be maintaining, that I'm the tough girl, right? That I do tough things and I'm strong and all that stuff. So I have to tell you, the sport I took most seriously in high school, where I was like fourth in the state of Minnesota in this sport, was synchronized swimming.
Okay.
So that is the thing where I'm like, it does not really go with my brand, synchronized swimming, but it is a hard sport.
Oh, it
You-
absolutely is. I was a swimmer in high school. I played water polo. I coached swimming for a while. And
Okay,
you figure all that, but you have to do it upside down underwater the whole time.
exactly. So you're not breathing, right? And then you actually have to be graceful, like
Yeah.
come up with a smile and then be coordinated. Yeah. So I kind of random that, but yeah, that's a little factoid. So now the secret is out.
I love it. Yeah, that's my favorite question because I learned so much about a person just with that one question. So it's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get into the kid stuff. Let's start with um, the quote I see from the military, and I know you use this a lot, is the phrase "embrace the suck."
Mm,
Why does the military use that phrase, and why is it so helpful?
mm. So if we really take that phrase, that just sounds kind of like rough and tough and kind of motivating, or when I was in the Marine Corps, we thought it was kind of more of a sick joke when we're just really struggling. But if we really think about it, um, embrace what's hard. It's really trying to say, embrace what is hard. What is the benefit of putting our arms around and bringing things closer to us, the things that make us uncomfortable. That's really what that embrace the suck is all about. And what we know based on psychology is that, when we overcome challenges and adversity, that's what increases our self-efficacy and our self-esteem. Strength is forged in the struggle. So when people seek comfort and they run away from what is uncomfortable or what's hard, that ends up making them weaker and less able to handle the challenges in life. And the reality is, challenges and adversity and stress are not going away. They're just going to be a different flavor of that. And I think in today's day and age, we need this embrace the suck more than ever, because everything in our world is to make things easier. I mean, we don't even have to go to the store and shop. We just, tap on our phone and it's delivered to our house, right? And we've got AI that makes everything is designed now to just create a life of ease. And that is a fast track to create a life of anxiety and depression. We have the highest rates right now of anxiety and depression, especially in our youth. And one of the reasons for that, and I will cite like Jonathan Haidt from NYU, he wrote a book called The Anxious Generation, is because we are making life too comfortable and easy for our kids. So that embrace the suck. I mean, it is the term we used in the Marine Corps, but I wholeheartedly believe that we need to learn as a society, as at work, as parents, that we shouldn't run away from what we fear or what is hard. We should run toward it, because each time we run toward whatever we fear, whatever's uncomfortable, that's getting in the way of where we are and where our goals are, right? When we run toward it, first of all, we get through it faster, right? And number two, you feel unstoppable when you can actually get through those hard things. So this is how you build self-esteem, right? If every time there's something hard, you run away from it, when you look in the mirror, you think a little less of yourself, right? And we wonder why we have challenges with mental health and people are unhappy because we're being too easy. We need to do hard things, embrace the suck, and that'll actually make us happier. So this is a happiness scientist here saying, embrace the suck will make you happy.
Yeah, love it. Love that idea. I've always believed that. So it's nice to have the research to back it up.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's interesting how if we take that easy route, basically it comes down to, you can choose your hard. Your hard and your suck can be results of the anxiety and depression because you haven't challenged yourself.
Yeah.
Or you can choose, I'm going to challenge myself to go do these hard things so I can have it where I don't have those other issues.
Exactly.
And so it's going to be hard one way or the other. Just choose which one that you want. And to me, it makes way more sense to choose the difficult stuff where I have I get to decide what it's going to be.
Yeah.
So I would much rather go that route.
Exactly. And let me give you a little bit more science here on this, because I want to just cite, like, Albert Bandura is a very famous psychologist, and he's the one who really did the groundbreaking research on self-efficacy, which is believing that you can do hard things, right? And his landmark study that he did, actually, he worked with people that had this extreme phobia or anxiety. It's like, what's the right thing to do? Do you just let people never experience that thing that gives them anxiety, or do you help them overcome it? And what does it do? So he actually had people who had this extreme phobia or anxiety around snakes. And what he found in his research is, in order to overcome any type of anxiety or any type of fear, you can't just talk about it and say, oh, snakes are friendly and everything's going to be okay. You actually have to take steps toward it. So in this research that he did, he had all these different people, and the first thing he did is he'd show them a picture of snakes, which made them uncomfortable. Oh gosh, don't do that, right? But he made them take a look at a picture of a snake, and then he made them look at a video of snakes, because now they're moving. Now it's actually, it looks more real as they're moving. Then he actually brought a snake in the room, far end of the room, in a aquarium, right, where they keep them. And then he brought it closer, and then he brought it closer yet. And then it was right next to the patients. And then he got the snake out. And he eventually walked closer to the patients. Eventually they touched the snake with a finger. They were eventually holding the snake. So here's what we know based on this research is, each one of those steps was uncomfortable. and people didn't want to do it, but they had a choice. Am I going to live with this anxiety that is going to make me miserable, or do I want to overcome what we fear? So what Bandura found in his research is the way that we build confidence, or what people think is, I'm going to wait until I'm confident and then I'm going to take a step. I'm not ready yet. I'm not ready yet. When I'm ready, I'm going to take a step. He goes, no, 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 you have it backwards. You take a step and that builds confidence. And then you take the next step. You keep taking that step on shaky knees. And with some time, and you've taken 10 steps, you're like, wow, I did that. I no longer am allowing the fear to control my behavior and to make me miserable. Now, I know snakes is kind of a ridiculous example, but you can use that phobia with anything. Like people have a fear of sometimes flying, right? And you can choose, like, I can't go anywhere. Maybe my parents live on the other side of the country and I'm never going to see them because I have a fear. Like you can overcome these fears, or a fear of speaking up, the fear of getting on a stage, all these different things. So, so it's so important for us to realize that it's possible to overcome fears, but especially our younger generation, that anxiety is so overdiagnosed now. Kids are uncomfortable and they're scared, and we just take the label of anxiety on it. Now, anxiety is an actual diagnosed condition. I'm just saying I think it's overused now as an excuse to, like, well, I don't have to deal with it. But even if people do have an anxiety, like, there's such power in helping people realize that they overcame it, because then people are going to look in the mirror and go, well, I overcame that, right? And then they feel like they're Superman or Superwoman. Like, I can do hard things. I have agency in my life. I don't have to be controlled by my fears. So that's what came to mind. Sorry,
Yeah,
I
no,
nerded out a little bit on the science, but that's
no,
just
I love it. All this stuff, it's just like I felt this way. I thought this was what the case was, and so now,
yes.
yes, I have someone to legitimize what my thoughts were. So that's always great. The thing
Yep.
I was taught in the Boy Scouts growing up, from my leader, he would take us out zip lining, or not
Mm-hmm.
zip lining, rappelling. And
Mm-hmm.
whenever there was anyone who would be scared, he'd say, "Don't let that fear have time, because the more time you give to the fear, the worse it gets. But if you go quick, you overcome that fear. It can't build. It can't be that bad." And so that's
Yes.
kind of been my philosophy with stuff, is like, hey, if it's something fearful, that's a sign. Oh, okay, I need to take action
Yeah.
quickly so that it doesn't build. Because if I've ever waited, wait to make that phone call, wait to take that action, oh, it just eats you alive, and it's so much worse than the reality is.
Mm-hmm. And then how do you feel after you do it? Like, let's
Oh,
use that
feels
example.
amazing. It's exhilarating. You're just like, oh, I'm on top of the world. I can go. I want to go again. Let's go do it again.
Yeah, exactly. So you're totally right. So the whole just do it right away, um, that is based by research as well. Like, make the decision that you're going to do it, and then don't think about it. I think Mel Robbins famously says, like, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Right? I mean, it's not her research. She just came up with a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. But she's exactly right. Don't think about it. Like, even like when you set your alarm every morning, some people make this mistake. The alarm goes off and they're like, oh, should I press snooze? Should I not? Like, I want everyone to know, like, never press snooze in your entire life. You already made a decision the night before that you're going to get up at a certain time for a purpose, in order for you to accomplish whatever goals, maybe your personal goals, your professional goals. So when the alarm goes off, jump out of bed, make sure your phone and your alarm is across the room, and get up, right? But if you sit there and think about it and press snooze, right, then the very first thing you're doing in the morning is you're breaking a promise to yourself, right? And that is not a good one. So you're right. One other little piece of research in terms of, like, just not thinking about it is, Roy Baumeister, another psychologist, found that we have limited cognitive resources throughout the day. So basically, like, our brain has a full battery to do hard things in the morning. Like, we have our best chance to do hard things in the morning, fully charged battery. And so, like, when you get up in the morning, you should do the hardest things first thing in the morning. Because what most people do is, you get up in the morning and you get up and you have your coffee, and then you just kind of ease into your day, and then you look at your to-do list, and usually you do the easy things, and then you keep putting off the hardest thing, the most uncomfortable thing, which is usually the most important thing for business or in life. And at the end of the day, what usually happens is, tomorrow.
I'll
I'm going
get
to do
to
it tomorrow,
it.
right? I'll get to it tomorrow. So what he found in his research is, he teaches people, if you choose the hardest thing that you have to do and you do it first thing in the morning, what ends up happening is just like when the people go rappelling, as soon as they do it, they're like, wow, I just did that. So you get a boost of positive emotions, you get a dopamine hit, and then you're so much more productive the rest of the day. Like people who dread going to the gym, like I love going to the gym, but people who are trying to get in shape, that's why they say you get up first thing in the morning, you go to the gym, because those people that do that hard thing, go to the gym in the morning, the rest of the day, they're just walking around with their chest puffed out. They feel like so proud of themselves. And then they're so much more productive the rest of the day. Right.
Yep,
So,
it
so,
is for sure. It goes back to, think of a business book, Eat That Frog, Brian Tracy. He's been
oh,
preaching that for years, and then all of a sudden someone came along, yeah, let's study that. Oh yeah, it actually works.
yeah,
All this stuff.
exactly.
It's funny how it may not come from science at first, but it's legitimized over time because obviously if it works, it's going to prove out when the research is done.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I used to have kind of an academic stick up my butt for a while, where if anything wasn't like cited by the top psychologist, I would just like poo poo it. But you know what? I've really become more open minded where like I love Brian Tracy. When I first started my career in the pharmaceutical, I used to have my cassette tapes that I'd put in my car that I would listen to, and I would just listen to it over and over again. So you look at a lot of these self-help gurus that maybe don't have the degree, but they look at their experience and the experience of others. And I would say about 80% of the time, what they're teaching is the same stuff that has been studied. Now, there are some things that aren't as effective. Like there's a lot of motivational speakers that I see because I'm a keynote speaker, so I have a lot of friends in the speaking circuit. But some people just go up on the stage and beat their chest and say, "Look at how tough I am," and like just be like me. And sometimes that actually backfires a little bit. So if you say just go out and run 12 or 15 miles every single day and don't be a wimp and just get after it, sometimes that actually backfires because people will leave really inspired and they'll plan on doing that and they want to do that. But what ends up happening is they will end up letting themselves down and they can't keep it up. And then their self-confidence and self-esteem goes down even further. So what I'm really passionate about is making sure I teach people how to do hard things, but making sure that they learn how to do it step by step so that it builds over time. And then we also teach them what to do, like when you have an off day or you make a mistake and how you can get over that quickly. And because a lot of people will start on a new path and then they'll have one day that's off and it just ruins everything and then they just stop, right? And that's not good either. So 80%, but 80% of all the self-help stuff is good, but there's 20% of it that isn't really the right advice. So I always say exercise some caution.
Yeah, well, yeah. See if there's research out on there, and then yeah, yeah. If it doesn't sound like it makes sense, then you probably shouldn't be doing it.
Yeah. And the great thing about AI now, you could like, okay, I just read this book. Like, is it evidence based or is there anything that I should challenge? Right. And then you can do it in a second. Like we used to have to like know someone who has all these advanced degrees. Now we can have Claude do it in about 30 seconds.
Yeah, exactly. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, but Brian
Let,
Tracy,
let
eat
yeah,
that
let's
frog.
let's pivot it to kids specifically. So,
Mhm.
we talk a lot about on this show. I talk a lot about with my clients about the financial side of challenging your kids, helping them do what I call manufacture struggle, so that way they can learn a financial scenario and they're ready for the real world. They're ready for whenever they get the inheritance because they've had those scenarios. They've understood those things. What are some suggestions you have to help bring up your kids and from a very affluent family where they're not going to have to struggle? How can they do that in a way that's going to help them build bravery, build confidence, and really help them down the road be ready for what life has for them?
Yeah. Such a great question. I love what you said about manufacturing challenge. And that's exactly what my work is about, is not just trying to make people resilient so they can, get back up when something happens to them, but instead I want people to seek challenges. I want to create environments that we're always looking to challenge ourselves so that we become stronger, right? And I always use the analogy of just kind of like going to the gym. Like the reason why you go to the gym consistently is you want a strong, healthy body so that you can live your healthiest life. And then if you end up getting sick or in an accident or anything like that, your body's going to bounce back faster. It's the same thing with psychological resilience, right? So we want to always be challenging our mind like we challenge our body so that we're psychologically resilient, which might be even more important, or they're both very important. So I love the manufacturing challenge. Now, what I would say as a parent, now I am not an expert in child psychology. This is me just being like, I'm an expert in positive psychology, and my deep expertise is in bravery. So I'll just tell you like how I think about this. But I always look at, some thought leaders in the space, and I think of there's a book called Anti-Fragility, and then there's also The Anxious Generation by Jonathan Haidt. So these are like more thought leaders on kids, right? And really talking about like what can we do as parents and also as educators to build, like our job isn't to make our kids happy every moment of the day. Our job is to create young people that can grow up to thrive in life. So the first thing for everyone to realize is, what is our job of parents, right? And if you think your job is to make them smile and happy every moment of the day, then that's going to lead you to make decisions that might actually make them weaker, right? So if I can back up for a moment, like if we look at what are the 5 things that we know creates happiness and well-being in all humans, there are 5 things. All right, so just very high level quickly. The first one, there's an acronym called PERMA. This is the groundbreaking research by Marty Seligman, the father of positive psychology. So there's 5 things. Number one, the PERMA is this acronym. P stands for positive emotions. So positive emotions is a part of it, creating joy and awe and happiness and love, and feeling all those positive emotions is important. It's 1/5. 1/5. 4/5 of happiness is not experiencing positive emotions. And then it's also teaching our kids how we can create positive emotions. I think so many times we just feel like we're victims, like, oh, I just, like, this is the way I feel and I'm just down. And there's great research that's done on how you can generate positive emotions. Barbara Fredrickson from Stanford is a leading researcher. That's why you hear so much about even a gratitude practice, right? Of if you focus on what is good, you can't be also focusing on what is bad. So that's kind of where that comes from. So positive emotions is 1/5. The second one in PERMA, E stands for engagement, which is getting into a flow state. Csikszentmihalyi wrote the book on flow, where you almost lose track of time, where you're always doing deliberate practice to get a little bit better in an area of passion. So that's flow. R is relationships. We learned that pretty well in COVID, especially parents of kids. The quality of relationships with family and friends is absolutely essential for well-being. So that's important. The M in PERMA stands for meaning, feeling like what you're doing makes a difference. So having purpose or meaning in life. And then the final one is accomplishment, making meaningful progress on your intrinsic or self-concordant goals. So I think the first thing is for us to understand as parents is, if I want to create happy kids, I want to find ways to make them experience positive emotions, but I want to find like what's the thing they're really passionate about so they can get in that flow state. Maybe it's playing soccer, maybe it's music, maybe there's a certain subject they're really good at, art or something like that. Relationships, having positive relationships in the home, outside of home, meaning, making sure that they feel that sense of purpose and meaning in what they do. And then finally, making sure that they're setting goals, challenging goals, and accomplishing those goals so that they can learn all the skills of generating happiness and well-being. Happiness is a choice. We can choose to create happiness. There's actions we can take in PERMA. And if we consistently take actions in these 5 areas, you can live a thriving, flourishing life. But many times we don't even know how to do that. So I just wish that they would teach this in school in addition to math and history, reading and all that stuff. So that's
There's
just
a
kind
lot
of
of
like,
things I wish they would teach in school.
I know. Also financial literacy, right?
Yeah.
So let's get back to now, like, as parents, the tendency is the desire to keep your kids safe and you want to make them happy. So many times when there's struggles or challenges, we have a desire to take those challenges away to make them smile and to make them happy, right? And so the mistake that we make, and I have made the mistake even myself, the Marine Jill, is I've sometimes removed a challenge because it made them so miserable, and that's a mistake, right? So what we should be doing instead is knowing, all right, so what is this challenge? Let me lovingly support you to overcome this challenge or this adversity. And I think that I shared this story when we first met is, that I had an opportunity once. I had one of my daughters was really afraid of public speaking. Like, she was afraid of speaking in front of her class. I mean, it's probably borderline anxiety because she felt physically ill, like she just felt kind of panicked. And it just broke my heart. And I still travel a lot. And she was so upset. And so we're talking about it. And, my husband and I, in a moment of probably weakness, said, let's call the school and just say, like, we'd like her to be excused from this because it's creating a lot of undue stress and challenge. And then the school, I'm proud of them. They're like, I'm sorry, it's part of the assignment. She needs to figure out how to do it. And then sometimes when people tell me, challenge me on something, I'm like, oh, really? You're telling me no? So I'm so embarrassed to admit this. Um, so there's a family psychologist that we know. So our daughter went and saw hers, and the psychologist basically said, this is anxiety. I will write a note to the school. They can't make her do this. So this is an example of what not to do. So she was excused from having to present in front of her group. And I think about this as a parent now. In that moment, it felt like love. Ah, like all that anxiety just melted away. She felt safe. I got the hugs, and it felt like the right thing to do. And then as soon as you kind of zoom out a little bit, you just realize the fundamental error there. Like in life, in business, like she's going to have to sometimes talk in front of a couple of people. That was her opportunity in more of a safer zone. So what I should have done is we should have listened to her concerns and helped her prepare, right? If she would have practiced, I think of my other daughter, she had a similar problem, but she would practice in front of us, 5 or 10 times, and then she would be able to go do it. And it maybe wouldn't be the best one, but she'd get through it, and she became stronger. So
Yeah, and
don't
it's
remember.
like anything else, it's repetition. It's taking the time to learn that skill. You're not gonna be great at everything off the bat. You
Yeah.
just have to work at it. And so there's nothing wrong with that. It's interesting. I actually just had a similar situation with my son. He is not enjoying his math class at all. He's in
Mhm.
the ALL advanced learning class.
Oh
It's the
boy.
first time he's ever had to struggle with school. And so part of it is he doesn't like his teacher. And this is the second year with this teacher, and he keeps saying, "I just want to get out of. I want to go back to normal one because all his friends are in the other class.
Uh-huh.
It doesn't help me. We won't use this. Blah, blah, all this stuff." And I'm like, no, that's not the way this works. Like, you signed up for the year, you're in for the year. Now,
Yes.
if you want to have
Uh-huh.
a reevaluation, over the summer, if you're really struggling, you don't get the concept, that's a different story. Like, if you can't hang with that group, but that's not the case. He just doesn't want to put in the work for it. And he's having a hard time with his teacher. I'm like, you're going to have a hard boss. You're going to have whatever. So no, we're not getting out of that class. If she's doing something inappropriate, sure, I'll reach out then, but that's it. Like, I'm not getting involved in this. You've got to ask her for help. You've got to figure this out.
Yeah.
And as much as I would love to remove him from that class because it would save so many late night conversations and,
Mhm.
fights with us, I
Yeah,
know in the long term it's the right decision.
it is. Yeah, absolutely. I love that. You think of like so many life skills that he's learning there. Like you got to learn to work with a variety of people that you like and you don't like, right? And make it your personal mission that you will be successful in this environment, even though it's challenging. And you're going to be so proud of yourself when you get through it. Yeah. You're being a good dad. Yes. Keep it up.
It doesn't
Yeah.
feel like it, but thanks.
Yeah. Yeah. And especially I think when kids start something, like when you start something, there's been times where my kids like started a season, like in a really challenging like club volleyball team. I just didn't like it. Like, I just want to quit. First of all, we're like, we paid a lot of money for that. But like, no, we
Yeah.
don't quit. My girls were also in an organization called National Charity League. That was a 6-year commitment. And there's times where they were not enjoying it. Why do we have to do that? I'm like, we signed up for this. Here's the why behind it. This is about giving back to our local community. It was philanthropy work. It was fundraising. Like, we're going to finish. And then at the end of that 6 years, it started in seventh grade. It ended when they graduated as a senior. Both of them looked back on it and said, I'm so, so glad. That was the best thing for me. Right. So it's like our kids are going to get a little uncomfortable. They're going, I don't want to do it. And we can't allow them to quit in that moment because that's going to take away that opportunity for them to get the very best lessons.
So my next question is, you have the bravery framework.
Mm-hmm.
How would you apply, how can parents apply that to themselves? Because I think their biggest fear is my kid's going to struggle, my kid's going to be outcast, or my kid's not going to nail this. And so they get fearful, and that's why they step in. So how can they apply some of those bravery framework tools so that they can restrain from stepping in and doing those things that are going to end up hurting their kids?
Okay, there are things that we can do. So, like, I have so many examples of what not to do from my own parenting. So, I wish I would have studied psychology when my kids were like young instead of studying when they were like, like 17 and 19. It was like too late for me. Uh, so, what we know not to do is we don't want to just take away the challenge. We've already gone over that very, very clearly. The other thing not to do, and I think this was my tendency, and this is the former Marine in me, of just be tough and say, you're just going to do it, figure it out on your own, and not give them the support. So I think sometimes, especially as I work with leaders in organizations, like leaders sometimes feel like, do I just am I nice and I take away the challenge, or am I mean and hold them to the standard? And sometimes we think that we have a choice between these two things, and that's actually not true. And this comes from the research by Dr. David Yeager from the University of Texas, Austin. He wrote a book called 10 to 25. If you have any child that's between the ages of 10 and 25, please read his book. It is so incredibly phenomenal. It's specifically answering this question. And what he shares in his book and in his research is that you hold the high standard and say, I believe in your potential. And because I believe in your potential, I'm not going to let you quit, but I'm going to give you that loving support to help you succeed. So think of it as kind of like one hand kind of on their back, kind of pushing them forward to the standard. The other hand is holding them steady. It's under their arm to help them move forward. So what are the things that we can do? And this is what I should have done. I should have done more like listening and like, what are you concerned about? Because they're going to be scared. They're going to be concerned. And we need to be there to listen, to hug them and say, it's going to be okay. Let's practice. What do you need from me? But the one thing that's non-negotiable is the standard's going to stay the same. We're not going to quit. But what can I do at home to feel that secure attachment, to feel safe experiencing or, feeling scared and a little bit uneasy? And we're going to do everything we can at home to help you go back out there on your own and do the thing. So we can do those two things together. It's the best way that you can love your child, or in the workplace. I said the best way you can lead people at work is helping them perform at the highest level. If you lower the standard, like let's say your son, you take that away. If you say we're gonna take you out of the class, you're unintentionally telling him, I don't think you can do it. I don't believe in your potential. I don't think you can actually learn this stuff or learn how to get along with this teacher. So we're going to just let you drop the class. So we're actually creating negative self-beliefs when we lower the standard. So we don't want to do that. We want to maintain it and say, I believe in you. And I know it's hard and it's normal that you're struggling and that you're learning from failures. That's all good stuff. That's where you learn. Did you guys know that this is where I get really fascinated by the brain science. When you're having the hardest time learning and you're like failing and you're just not getting it, or you make a mistake that's embarrassing, that is the equivalent of when you go into the gym and you like lift really hard and you're really sore and then your muscles start rebuilding. The same thing happens in our brain. The harder the struggle or the bigger the mistake that really is like hard for us to like handle and it feels really bad like mentally, that triggers the most growth in our brain in both the ACC and the prefrontal cortex. So just like teaching our kids, like, this is normal. When I was young, I struggled with this, and this, or tell stories of other people, like your struggle that you're having here. This is the good stuff. This is where your strength is being forged. This is where greatness is created. I'm so proud of you. You're going to keep going. You're going to look back and be so glad you did this. And that just doesn't make them happy in the moment. They still want to quit, but at least they'll understand why.
It's fascinating to me with, I look within my own family. Like I'm the oldest of 5 kids, and just as things were going along and going well, then then he went out on his own, and then after that, then he decided to build his own office building. And so in all those scenarios, yeah, we had a good life. We weren't poor by any means and destitute, but like there wasn't extra money for extra stuff because it went into building their future.
Mm,
So I had to have a job if I wanted to go do stuff. And so I wanted to get a job as soon as I turned 14, and I did, and I went and did that, and I worked and did all those things, and didn't think anything of it. But like that's what built me. Whereas my siblings came up in a time when they had already made it. So my dad's like, "Hey,
mm,
I want you to play, sports and do all the camps and stuff for my younger brothers. So you're not gonna work in the summer because you can't hold a job doing all these different things." Okay, well, that was a little bit different for them. They didn't have the same experience, and so they maybe don't have the drive that I do, or they've had to learn that further on
mm.
in life. And so it's interesting to see even within your own family how they do that. And I even had my parents came to me one time like, "Oh, we're so sorry, we were so hard on you," and all this stuff. I'm like, "What are you talking about? I'm so grateful that you were, because it made me into who I am, and I can
Yes.
see that now." And yeah, I couldn't see it at the time, but they
Mhm.
will look back. Your kids will look
Yes.
back and go, "Oh yeah, I'm grateful
Mhm.
for that because it made me who I am, and
Yes.
it made me the person that's resilient."
Yeah. Ah, I love it. Like we shouldn't start building our resilience when it's needed. We need to build the resilience proactively. Yeah. And it's really a great best practice to tell your kids the why behind you giving them high standards or telling them that they need to work. Like for most of the people that I know, and then most of your audience, your kids don't need to get a job. You have plenty of money. You could just give them all the money, but that is not the point.
Hmm.
You want them to learn how to work hard and to learn these skills. You know, we had to kind of push our kids to work because they didn't want to work. I don't want to work. Like I come home from college, I just want to like hang out with my friends the whole time. I get to the point of one of my daughters, she came back from school and she really didn't want a job. And I kind of went into marine mode and I'm like, I would like you to work full time and getting a job on your own. And you have to work 32 hours a week because, she's an adult now. And I said, if you are not working 32 hours a week, then I will give you work to do for me. And it might include a toothbrush and out in the backyard cleaning everything, but you will be working and you'll be a lot happier working for another job where you keep the money. If you work for me, it's just for you to be able to have a roof over your head. So I was very strict and there's a good end to the story. And my daughter was just, I mean, she complained to my husband and my other daughter and it just like, gosh, mom thinks working's like everything. And like, she was like upset. But she ended up going around and applying for all these different jobs. And she got her own job. Because I told her, I'm like, do you want me to come help you? Of course, she's like, no, right. So she found this job at this little boutique and she started working there. And it was like long hours on her feet. And she's never done that before. But she ended up being like the top employee where she felt valued. And it was such a great experience for her because she was responsible and she was doing a good job. And her boss, I mean, the owner of this boutique was fantastic. And she would tell my daughter, like, you are so good at this and I appreciate you so much, which made her want to work harder. And then she'd get her paychecks and she's like, that was the best. And now she looks back and she's like, Mom, I'm so glad you pushed me to do that because that was the best thing ever. Right. So is this is similar the story that you shared with your parents and what I just shared with Sydney. So all the parents out there, like your kids will think you're evil and they might even say like I hate you in the moment, but they're going to love you later. Just do the right thing, tell them why you're doing it, and be firm, and they will, I promise. It might take a year, it might take 5 years, but they're going to look back on it and say thank you so much for making me who I am today.
Yeah, you can't be soft. Your job as a parent, like you started with, is not
Mm,
to be their best friend and to make them happy every second of the day. Your job is to be their parent, to guide them and do help have them do the things that they don't know that they need to do. They're
yeah.
not developed, yet with their brain, so they don't know that they need to have challenge and all of those things, but they need it, and so you're going to have to be the one to help them with it.
Yeah, so true. So true. Um, since my girls are both in college now, like we give them some money to live, but we give them enough money to survive, but it requires them to budget. And if they want extra money to get their nails done or get more fancy Starbucks, they have to work. And so we do that purposely. Like we have given just enough to be able to survive, but I want them watching their dollars so that they're not just thinking like I think just giving them the unlimited family credit card to be able to do anything, at least in my opinion, is a mistake. Right? I want them to learn the value of money and budgeting And even, the choice we made with our older daughter too is when she started working, I said, any money that you make on your own, show me the paycheck, and then I would double it. Because I want to encourage her, you work, because she's not making a lot. Like, then I'll double it. But it's motivating her to earn it. Or even for my business, a lot of entrepreneurs out there, like I have them do some work for my business, but they, instead of just giving them money, like if you want to earn some extra money, then I'll give you some work to do. So that way it feels like it's earned instead of me just giving them unlimited money. So that's,
Yeah, there's so many things to go down there. There's an awesome TV show for younger families called The Tuttle Twins. It's on Angel Studios.
mm,
Um, and they talk about that even from a charitable standpoint of charities going into third world countries initially for a disaster, which is great. You need it right then, but then they stay and continue to just pump in food and all this stuff. Well, then nobody's motivated to start their own business, or no one's going
yeah,
to pay for their service because they can get the free stuff there. Like, our whole system is built on this ability to work hard, produce value, create value in the area, and then you feel the reward for it. If it's just given to you, there's no that you're going to have failure in our society.
yeah. And you go back to that PERMA, like when people do that, then you take away their accomplishment, you take away their purpose. So then you wonder why like people become really unhappy. So just giving people too much, it gives short-term happiness, but long-term misery. We need to create long-term happiness, especially for our kids. So, I mean, obviously I didn't do it perfectly. Like I'm trying to, I mean, the joke is my kids will be in therapy someday because their mom was a United States Marine. During COVID, I might have taken them out for forced runs, but maybe that was a little bit much, but
Yeah,
now we can laugh about it, joke about it. And they're like, I'm like, you needed, one of the primary ways that you can help people with depression is exercise, like exercise on a regular basis, elevating your heart rate is as effective, if not more effective than antidepressants. So if people are getting sad, like that's why with COVID, we're like, we're going to go out and go for a jog. Right. Um, so now it's just good things to joke about over Thanksgiving dinner of all the things that mom made us do during COVID. So it's good laughs now.
yeah. Well, and they're bonded together because of that struggle. The
Yeah.
sisters they're going to be closer together. So, oh
Yeah.
yeah, so many things we could talk about here. I want
Yeah.
to. I've got two more questions.
Okay.
One is, how do you think about legacy, and what do you think that's going to look like for your kids?
Gosh, I don't know if I have a good answer for that other than I think that's a good coaching question for me. And it's probably why I need your help is what does it mean for like legacy? Like I just what comes to mind is what I try to teach my girls is that I try to find what am I most passionate about? And then I want to do the most work to bring my passion to bring value to others. So like my legacy is going to be different for their legacy. So for me, legacy isn't dollars. For me, it's what is my mark in the world? For me, it's I'm doing research on bravery that and I'm planning on more research that I think will give more evidence to help make a difference in the world. And I go to companies. And so like so what I'm trying to do in terms of my legacy is the impact I'm making. And once you make an impact with something you're really passionate about, then you get rewarded by the dollars. So the dollars come in and it's a good measurement of the impact that you're having. And of course, then we want to make sure that we responsibly, invest all of those resources so we can continue making an impact moving forward. But for my girls, I want them to create their legacy. I want them to find their success. I don't, and you're going to have to speak as an expert here. Maybe I'm doing this wrong, but I don't want my girls to rely on any of our wealth. I said, I want you to go out and find your passion and create your legacy, find what you love and earn a living with it. Now, I say when you retire, you're going to be fine because I've already started the retirement funds and stuff but I would be doing you a disservice if I just gave you all the money. Like you've got to find out what mark you want to make in the world. And I want you to work really hard to bring that value. And I want you to be rewarded dollars flowing in when you make that impact. So and they're still exploring that. They're still figuring out what they want to do. So that's the only answer I have because I probably need some coaching from you on thinking about my legacy. I pass
Well,
it along.
so the thing I found is there's no right answer. It's obviously what is important to you. That's the first question. What are the values that are important to you? No one's answered that question with money. It's never money is the answer of legacy.
Mhm. Okay.
It is, what are the values that I want to pass on, that I want to make sure that my kids, my grandkids, my great grandkids know? And then how is there a way we can structure that within your estate plan to help incentivize those things? And
Yeah.
so, yeah, you're on the right track with, yeah, you need to work in the world. And it's so fascinating to me when you think of like the super wealthy people, Elon Musk, for example, he has no need to work, period, ever. He didn't
Mhm.
the first company, after the first company, if he would have just stuck with that. But why does he do that? Because he is driven to make a mark on the world. He wants to
Yeah.
change the world and get us to space. That is his purpose. That's why he's working so many hours. He's still working 100-hour weeks when he has no reason to. He has people that
Yeah.
can do that. And it's because of the purpose. And so, when we can find the drive, the purpose, and we work because we want to feel that struggle, we want to make an impact, that's where we want to get. And that's where I think these two things mesh so well with the financial side that I talk about with, the family bank and lending versus gifting and all that stuff, with the psychology of happiness and struggle
Yeah.
and all that. We meet those together, and that's where I think we have the most impact.
Yeah. No, I love that. That's perfect. And there's no one career that is the right one. Going into the military, becoming a teacher that impacts kids, like, and there's just find whatever it is that you're going to make the world a better place in whatever way, right? I mean, and that's what I want them to find, because I want them to be in alignment with what is in their heart and soul. And I think that's really important. I think some people think like, well, I should, my dad was a lawyer and my grandfather's a lawyer, and so I should be a lawyer, but then it's just not in alignment. They don't enjoy it. So
Mm-hmm.
if you're going to do the work, I love my work. I love going to work. I love doing more research, because I love what I do. I mean, what a gift that is, right? So yeah, as we talk about legacy, I hope for everyone, they can find that thing, that that area of expertise, of passion, that will make an impact, that they enjoy. And it doesn't
But
matter.
it's not, but just because you love it and you enjoy it doesn't mean it's all easy, right? You definitely still have
Yeah.
struggles, and you're looking for that. And I think that's why you've had those every 8 years, you're looking for something new, because you want that challenge. Your lifestyle is built around seeking challenge, improving, and
Yes.
doing all of that. And, the idea that, oh, if you find your passion, you'll never work a day in your life, that's not true. You're going to have struggles,
You'll
but
still be
you
working.
you
Yeah.
need to find those things that you're passionate about, it, that you will work through the struggle for it.
Yeah, totally. You've always got to be challenging yourself in some way. You're so, so right. In fact, some people I think let good get in the way of great. Like they get a good job and it's like, it's okay. It's a good job and I make good money and I have good benefits. And because it isn't bad, if people are miserable in their jobs, it's easier to make a change. But that's where whenever I start getting a little bit bored and a little bit complacent, I just know it's time. Like I need to do something that's more challenging. It
Yeah,
makes it more fun. Yeah.
it does for sure. Okay,
Yeah.
last question. Uh, what is the best advice you've ever been given in any
Mm.
area of life?
I just had lunch with my first company commander that I reported into as a Marine. And, um, he always gives advice is don't perform to the minimum standard, perform at your very best standard. So I think that's always stuck with me. Like, if you go to a job, what if there's a minimum expectation, like in order to perform well, you have to be here. Don't make that your standard. Like I'm always trying to create that new standard. So I think that's it. Is just try to make your biggest swing for the fences and set goals for yourself that are much higher than what's expected. So if you're always doing that, you're going to be kind of under promising and over delivering, and that will just create a track record of success.
Yeah, we're not looking for the floor. We want to go well above that.
Yeah.
Oh, so many good things. We could definitely go on for hours on this, but
Yeah.
we'll wrap it up there. Maybe we'll do a follow-up session some other time. But thank you, Jill, for being on the podcast. Where can people find you and find your book?
The book, The Bravery Effect, is like anywhere books are sold online. So just Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Target, etc. So they can find it there. And then I'm most active on LinkedIn because I work in the corporate environment. So please follow me on LinkedIn. I'm also on Instagram and Facebook. That's where I am so far. I've been told I should do like YouTube and all that. But for right now, that's where I am. So just follow me and I'll give practical advice each day, like a little tip to encourage people to be brave each day.
Okay, awesome. Well, yeah, go out, buy that book if you haven't. Great, even for your kids to read, because it's, like I said, it's a story, so it's something that they'll be interested in. And yeah, make your kids do hard things, embrace the suck, and we will catch you next
Embrace,
time.
embrace the suck. Yes. All right. Thanks for having me. Have a good one.
Thanks.